But China claims to have turned the tide in the fight to combat COVID-19. The country where it all began has for weeks endured severe restrictions that other countries are just now implementing, and all the while watching an increasing toll on human life.
Well, let's get more from our correspondent Olivia Xiong, who joins us in the studio this morning. And Olivia, WHO declaring the outbreak of COVID-19 finally a pandemic, and we're seeing confirmed cases rise by around 13-fold worldwide. China, of course, taking strict measures to contain the problem in the epicenter, Wuhan. But I guess it's probably too early to call a sense of normalcy returning to Wuhan in the epicenter of the outbreak, right? Because you can't let your guard down, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think while there's some sense of normalcy returning to Wuhan, there's been a shift in the strategy in China, where it seems to have been able to get the situation under control when it comes to local transmission. It's now guarding against imported infections as the situation in other countries gets more severe. And as of yesterday, we saw 24 new cases reported in China. 10 of those were imported, and 6 of them reported in Beijing, the capital. And so Beijing really has stepped up measures, particularly at its main airport. Yesterday, we saw it set up a 24-hour transfer center in the suburban Shunyi district. That's where the airport is located. And this center has been converted from an exhibition center, and anyone returning from overseas to the capital would have to pass through there. And rules have changed from week to week in Beijing, but this is, I believe, some of the strictest measures that has taken yet. All travelers into Beijing will have to undergo a 14-day quarantine. Previously, this policy was only applicable to those returning from seriously affected countries like Italy, South Korea, Iran. But travelers now will also have to take designated vehicles to be quarantined at home or at quarantine centers from the airport. And those traveling to Beijing for short-term reasons, for example, if you're on a business trip to the city, you will need to stay at designated hotels and to undergo a nucleic acid test, and that we know is a test for the COVID-19. Other parts of China, like Shanghai, Guangdong province, all these big international cities are also stepping up screening measures at the airport. But all of this may continue to pose a challenge to China as it tries to get back to normal, as it tries to get its businesses going again, because it's just going to provide more inconveniences. But I guess travelers will just have to put up with it, as China is very careful about not wanting to have all its good results go to waste and to risk a second wave of infection, so to speak.
Yeah, certainly, Olivia. While Chinese government and also the state media is trying to highlight Chinese efforts, some U.S. officials have criticized China over how they dealt with Wuhan, that they're accusing it that it has actually covered up the situation. How is China responding to that?
Well, we have yet to hear an official response to those comments that were made by the White House National Security Advisor, Robert O'Brien. He said there was a cover-up and that China didn't handle it well, and he cited reports from Chinese citizens about doctors being silenced and pointing to a cover-up over there. But yesterday, the Foreign Ministry maintained that China has shared its genetic sequence with the WHO at the earliest time possible, and it has always maintained that it had notified other countries in a timely manner. But we do continue to see how this epidemic has continued to fan the flames of tension between China and the US. Earlier this week, prior to these comments, China had taken issue with the use of the term Wuhan coronavirus by US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Some other US politicians have also been using this name, and China pointed to how the WHO had given the virus an official name, COVID-19, which does not refer to any particular country. And China has always been fighting against this because it said that, any mention of China or Wuhan would stigmatize the country. And we also are seeing this new narrative. Last week, the China's foreign ministry spokesperson also said it was highly irresponsible for some media to use the term China virus, and that there was no conclusion, he said, on the origin of the virus yet. And yesterday, the foreign ministry was asked about this once again, and this is what the spokesperson had to say.
关于病毒的源头问题，我想这是一个科学的问题，我们需要听取科学和专业的意见。在这方面，我们希望各方 目前都不应该借此来做文章， 不应该借此来对其他国家进行污名化。我想这不利于国际社会的齐心协力抗疫努力。